I'm going to give you the floor, or I'm going to keep jumping in here. David Icke, we're getting into the suppression of human consciousness. The fact is they want to, IQs are going down from the fluoride, Harvard study. We know they want to suppress us. They teach Common Core. You were talking about the state all over the world saying your kids belong to us, 2 + 2 = 5. They literally are like O'Brien in 1984 in the United States with Common Core, 2 + 2 = 5. A huge crime against the children, screwing up their brains. What is at the bottom of the rabbit hole?
Well, like I was saying before the break, the education system is crucial to the perception deception, because you have young minds who can be molded day after day after day after day. And one of the great testaments to human consciousness in its greater form is the number of young people who've been through that system. So many have, and it's got them. But there's so many young people that have been through that system and have still seen the truth of what's going on. So that's incredibly encouraging. So you've got education. Well, what passes for it? I mean, Gandhi once said, or was asked what he thought of Western civilization, and he said, I think it would be a very good idea. And I think education would be a very good idea. That's not what we've got. It's a programming operation to turn young minds into little more than software programs that respond in the desired way to inputted data, i.e. situations that they face. But then going alongside that, the education system, parallel with it, of course, is the mainstream media, which you and I have been challenging for a long time. And the mainstream media is constantly supporting the version of self, the version of reality, the version of the world that education is pumping out. So now there are, if you like, stereo versions of this programming, which young people are receiving, and indeed people in general in terms of the media are receiving all the time. And that is constantly telling them a version of events which simply isn't true. But if people buy it, their responses and their behavior will walk straight into the hands of the agenda for global control. So the media is doing that. Then you have, and you've mentioned one or two things, then you have the toxic assault on the human brain and the human genetic structure, most notably through genetically modified food, which is there simply to genetically modify us. Then you have things like growth hormones, which are given to cattle, which then cross over to humans. And so you have this big epidemic for that and other reasons of obesity, which again is taking people into a world that their bodies weren't meant to go into. I mean, just look back a few decades and see what it was like before. And then you've got the aspartame, then you've got the fluoride in the water, which are both brain suppressants and brain rewirers. And you put all this together, plus pharmaceutical drugs, plus the vaccines that are not only deluging the human immune system in young children before it's even formed, it's also affecting people mentally and emotionally. That toxic the cocktail that we call vaccines. So you put all this together, and there's absolutely a war from multiple levels on human perception. And there's another one, and that is, you know, in the last 50 years, the radiation in our atmosphere at the level that we play out our lives has increased by millions of times. Some open-minded scientists have called it an experiment on human life without knowing the outcome. But the people in the core, in the shadows from which it is coming, they do know the outcome. And part of that outcome is to, and this is where we come into transhumanism, this is where we come into the internet to a large extent, plus additions to the internet that are planned and indeed are now being talked about. I'll get to one of them in a second. Because the human brainwave activity operates at a certain frequency band. If you can access that frequency band with information delivered electromagnetically and electrically, then you are putting thoughts and perceptions and beliefs, perceptions of reality into that system, and the person is having thoughts and feelings and coming to conclusions that they think they're their own conclusions, but they're not. And anything that's got smart in front of it is part of that grid. Smart televisions, which can look at you, smart phones, smart meters, smart grids. This is all part of it. And the idea is, I've been writing about this for years.
Smart growth.
Smart growth, smart cities, smart everything, smart cars, they're calling
intelligent highways.
Yeah. So what? And of course, the word "smart" is to give the underlying subconscious as well as conscious impression that this is the smart thing to do. This is the intelligent way to do it. There are benefits in this for you. There are not benefits for you. There is just control and suppression of your perception of reality and perception of the world. So you've got this. And for me, I've been writing about this for years. You know, the internet has fantastic benefits for getting this information out. I mean, you, me, and people like us would never have got the information out that we have to the number of people we have without the internet. But again, if you're going to sell a prison, then you've got to sell it as a beneficial thing. And up to this point, it has been. But as you know, and people following the story know, the idea is, and it's already unfolding in many, many different facets and faces, it's to take away the things that are beneficial for the internet, for people, the free flow of information.
That's right. They let it be free for a while, like a highway paid for by everybody's tax money. Then they hand it over to a toll road company. They're already starting with Unified Agenda Worldwide to phase out the freedom.
Exactly. And so what's left when they do that, if we allow it, is the beneficial part of the internet for them. And that is as a massive mind programming, perception programming operation.
Spy grid.
Because for me, I mean, like I say, I've been saying this for years. What the internet is designed to be is an electronic collective mind for humanity. And this is where the transhumanism comes in, because the idea of putting chips into people and other pieces of kit that connect us to the internet, and of course, Google at the forefront of all this stuff. Google's just the smiling face of DARPA at that level, the technological development arm of the Pentagon. That's why you have people like Regina Duggan, director of DARPA, moving to become an executive of Google. It's not brain science why that happened. They're expressions of each other. And so the idea is to connect us to the internet technologically, so the internet becomes our collective mind.
And let me throw this in. They're on record poisoning the environment and wrecking our genetics, so that we've got to merge with the machines and the new medical systems just to survive the total form of true enslavement. And then they're there posing as the saviors when they've created the problem. Somebody's got to do something about it, and then they're there to give the solution.
Yeah, problem, reaction, solution. This was in the British press this week, Alex. Headline, forget the internet, soon there will be the outernet. Company plans to beam free Wi-Fi to every person on Earth from space, was in the London Daily Mail. They're quoting an organization called Media Development Investment Fund in the United States, which is among its funders are the Open Society Foundations of George Soros. You know that man that has...
Oh, he likes us.
And what they're saying is they want to beam it from space, because they care about freedom of expression, you see. So they want to get over the restrictions in China and all this. They're such nice people. And give us internet.
They want to beam it into Russia, overthrow that, exactly.
Yeah. Now, what this is, I would suggest, and there'll be other things too, is another layer on, because when I talk about the internet, what I'm also talking about is the lower levels of the Earth's atmosphere where we interact and live our lives. They want to fill that with so much electromagnetic information broadcasting within the human brainwave and genetic frequency, that we are bombarded with basically a
frequency pollution, a jamming signal.
24/7 programming system. This is what smart meters are about. What are they doing? They're creating a Wi-Fi radiation field, yet another one. That's very kind, very sensible, thank you. Within every home and business, that's the idea with the smart grids. And you know, people have said, and rightly too, that what they're doing is being able to see when you open your fridge, how many people's in your house, what room they're in, what
exactly.
you're doing. Yes. But, you know, as they say on a motorbike, the throttle goes both ways. Well, so does the Wi-Fi. You can get information from a location, and you can pick up that.
No, that's on record. And let me expand on this. When I go to Big Bend, where I'd love to go live, but it's in the middle of nowhere, you know, down in South West Texas on the Mexican border, and there's nothing on that side of Mexico either. Your cell phones don't work. Literally, even though I'm at 9,000 feet or whatever, I feel 20 years younger. It's like heaven because there's no Wi-Fi. But now it's not going to matter. They're launching blimps and satellites that are going to blast everything. And there's all these people moving to the countrysides in Europe and worldwide, as you know, to get away from frequency pollution. Sorry, you're not going to get away from it. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, this is what a point I'll come to in a second about trying to run away. You're not trying to run away. We've got to run straight at these people, because if you're trying to run away, you'll run away for a while, and then it'll catch you up. I mean, we've got to deal with it, for goodness sake. Don't run away from it. And so what is happening is that with the smart meters, that's another electromagnetic field, which is not only taking information from your home and business and delivering that to a central point. Information's coming the other way within the frequency of human brainwave activity. So it can feed you impressions, it can feed you perceptions, it can feed you thoughts and beliefs. That's the idea. And what Hollywood is doing, I mean, what are we talking about? A perception deception, Hollywood, my goodness. It's one of the great vehicles for it. You know, I've been 50-odd countries, everywhere you go.
That's where I wanted to go next, though. I want to stop you right there because I only got like 15 minutes or 5 minutes of the next hour with you, max. DavidIcke.com joining us right now. Again, I'm Alex Jones. If you just tuned in, David, you know a lot of famous people. I know a lot of famous people. Most of them do not have the courage to go public. I mean, most big Hollywood stars, A-list, most big producers I know, 95% of them won't come on air. But a lot of them have come on air. And in Hollywood, it's not liberal or conservative. They're listening to you. They're listening to me. They're all awake. They hate the old shadowy producers, Sumner Redstone and others that won't let them tell the truth. There's a revolution going on in Hollywood, and I see it in the new Lego movie, in the new Nut Job movie, anti-establishment, how they want to program us. And that's not propaganda. There's a war going on even in Hollywood. I mean, take Alice Walker of The Color Purple and all her big tops, who's a listener of you, a listener of me. She promotes us, gets attacked. My point is that we're going to skip this network break, folks. We're going to skip another break. This is so important. David Icke, I'm saying we are on the edge of winning because this isn't fake. Almost everyone in Hollywood, I've now learned, is a listener of this show, and they talk about you as well. And I'm not on a power trip over that. This is the main enemy brainwashing base, and we, by the grace of the Creator and human consciousness and everything, and our listeners, we've not infiltrated them. They are in the programming system. They know the truth better than us. They're absolutely freaking out. The military's waking up because they're decompartmentalized with our information. This is incredible. So what do you want to say about that? Because I want to be clear, Hollywood is on the verge of a huge awakening and a revolution against the old guys that control it. David Icke.
Well, take Hollywood, take any aspect of this global spider's web, and Hollywood will fit the blueprint. You've got a very few people that call the shots, and you've got everyone else that dance to the shots that are called. What has happened, thanks to the internet up to this point and books and many other, vehicles, is that, yes, the compartmentalized structure is being decompartmentalized. Because before, there was no way that those in the compartmentalized structure could get access to information that only those they knew. So they were always in the dark. They were always a piece in a puzzle they didn't understand. They didn't realize there was a puzzle. They just knew their little piece and they thought that was it. What has happened, because this information has circulated and circulated and circulated, and my goodness me, the number of people that are interested in it now is phenomenal compared with just a few years ago even. Those compartments are breaking down because people lower down in the structure are going, hold on a second, when they hear this information, that makes sense of what I'm doing every day. That makes sense of why I was asked to do this movie and do this scene and read this script. But what I would say, Alex, is yes, people are waking up, but, we can't just hold it at a point where we're waking up while still standing on the other side of the street, knowing more about what's happening and watching it with more understanding of the unfolding.
Yeah, it's kind of like being conscious while you're being roasted. It's almost worse if you don't reverse it.
We've got to cross the street and engage this, right? And there has to be a revolution of the many to refuse to acquiesce to the impositions of the few. And because, those people, I'll say to those people in Hollywood that are well off and have lots and lots of money, but are not part of this whole thing. They may be caught in it, but they're not part of it. I would say this to people in America and around the world who at the moment think that they're okay and they're well off or comfortable and it doesn't really affect them. Well, hold on. There are people now in tent cities in America and homeless in the streets in places like Britain who not long ago considered themselves to be middle class and had a nice house and a big mortgage which they could at that time pay. It turns very quickly because where we're heading is what I call the Hunger Games society. And it's real simple. And my goodness me, can you not see it now? It's for less than 1% to control all wealth, land, water, food production, all of it, to have then a strata of uniformed programs, software programs called the police state, with no ability to process information just to respond to orders. Psychopaths, sociopaths, narcissists, we're seeing them being recruited on a personality basis rather than an ability basis all the time. And under that is planned to be everyone else in a slave masses with a major, massive culling as well, which are subordinate. And those slaves will be subject to microchips and other forms of
forced inoculations. It's already happening. 200 square foot coffin apartments.
This is the point, Alex. When you realize and you know what's happening and you know where it's going, you read the world like an open book. This stuff now, you see these things where you swallow pills and have an edible microchip.
We told people that was coming. Yep.
Which then tell your mobile phone or your doctor's mobile phone when your next dose is due and if you've had it or not. That's all part of this process of forced drugging that this slave...
and they start it when you get allergy medicine over the counter now, swiping your card and telling you the state police are watching you. That's what the smart dust is about, the RFID, in their own words, a total enslavement grid. How do you think the fight against the spiders is going? How is the fight against the technocrats going?
Well, what I would say to everybody in Hollywood or elsewhere, we now have reached the point that pussyfooting around and doing a little bit and keeping your head down, I watch the Alex Jones show, I read that David Icke's books, but I can't say anything because what about my career? Those days, ladies and gentlemen, are over if you have any desire to live in a world that even has a modicum of freedom. There's no more time for messing around and having it an add-on to your life. This is a time to stand up and be counted, to come out the big Hollywood names that are hiding in the shadows at the moment because they fear the consequences. I tell you what, the consequences of not dealing with this now are going to be far, far worse than...
Exactly.
or not doing it, the consequences.
Well, David, people tell me all the time, they go, thank you for your courage. I would have to have blind, crazy courage to not fight this. I'm fighting it because I know how horrible it is where they're taking us, just like you said. Wait, I'm not doing this because I have courage. I'm doing this because I want to survive and have consciousness and freedom and free will for myself and humanity. I hate bondage. I hate these psychopaths that, you know, the whole royal group that you expose, it's all come out, and the dead bodies and the little kids, and the BBC pedophile rings. I mean, my God. It isn't courage fighting these people. My very instinct says we need to absolutely rout them. Introducing Pro One. All of your filtration in one system, portable, on the go. No more do you have 2 or 3 filters to just reduce sodium fluoride. You have a system that cuts out the sodium fluoride and up to 95% of hydrofluorosilicic acid. Advanced manufacturing technology combines silver-impregnated white ceramic with new Aquamedics advanced media for removal of fluoride and other heavy metals, all in one filter element. It is the only one that does it, and out of the gate, we have it discounted at 10% off with promo code WATER. This is the only system that in one unit helps reduce or remove pesticides, herbicides, chloramines, ammonia, and chlorine, hydrofluorosilicic acid, the most common form of fluoride not covered by other fluoride filter brands, and sodium hexafluorosilicate. Get your Pro Pure with the new Pro One filter today at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling 888-253-3139.
Now you can watch The Alex Jones Show live as it happens at Infowars.com/show.
You'll find links to all of our content there and a free 15-day trial for Prison Planet TV.
More than 60 movies and documentaries all in one place at Infowars.com/show.
Challenging for a long time. And the mainstream media is constantly supporting the version of self, the version of reality, the version of the world that education is pumping out. So now there are, if you like, stereo versions of this programming, which young people are receiving, and indeed people in general, in terms of the media, are receiving all the time. And that is constantly telling them a version of events which simply minds who can be molded day after day after day after day. And one of the great testaments to human consciousness in its greater form is the number of young people who've been through that system. So many have, and it's got them. But there's so many young people that have been through that system and have still seen the truth of what's going on. So that's incredibly encouraging. So you've got education. Well, what passes for it? I mean,
I'm going to give you the floor, or I'm going to keep jumping in here. David Icke, we're getting into the suppression of human consciousness. The fact is they want to, IQs are going down from the fluoride.
Gandhi once said, or was asked what he thought of Western civilization, and he said, I think it would be a very good idea, and I think education would be a very good idea. That's not what we've got. It's a programming operation to turn young minds into little more than software programs that respond in the desired way to inputted data, i.e. situations that they face. But then going alongside that, the education system, parallel with it, of course, is the mainstream media, which you and I have.
Harvard study, we know they want to suppress us. They teach Common Core. You were talking about the state all over the world saying your kids belong to us, 2 + 2 = 5. They literally are like O'Brien in 1984 in the United States with Common Core, 2 + 2 = 5. A huge crime against the children, screwing up their brains. What is at the bottom of the rabbit hole?
Well, like I was saying before the break, the education system is crucial to the perception deception, because you have young